coming up with a new idea, that's the hardest part, right? Like it's almost like once you have an idea, then you can put work into it. You can go, okay, what else? What else? Let me try it again. Let me expand upon it. But that initial little nugget, I don't know where to find those. They just sometimes they just appear, and sometimes I'm better at being proactive about it. Like I feel like I started like getting back in the grind, and I was doing pretty good. Just making myself sit and write down some ideas or look over past ideas, and then forcing myself to do them on stage.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Raisin Bread. This is Basil. With me today is Derek Smith and the amazing Ahmed Bharoocha of Dream Corp fame. If you haven't checked out Dream Corp, guys, it's on Hulu, and it was on Adult Swim, but now it's on Hulu. Great, fantastic show. Amazing dark black comedy. I'm a big fan of it. Check it out. But Ahmed, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good.
Buddy?
How are you? I'm doing well. How about you?
Everything from the neck down works. What about you, Derek?
I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Just my head works.
Mm. Yeah. How's your guys' weeks go so far?
Pretty good. I started out, I was sick with my son. There's been something going around. I keep hearing everyone has, but we had it and it was not fun. Lots of vomiting.
Ooh.
It was awful, yeah. I haven't done that in a while, so it was like, whew.
Yeah.
But now I'm better, so I feel great. I feel like invincible.
Are you doing shows this weekend?
Yeah, I'm at the Comedy Store and the Comedy and Magic Club and a couple other like kind of alt rooms.
Well, where are you based, by the way?
Los Angeles. I live in Monrovia, which is like just outside Los Angeles. It's like east of Pasadena, near the mountains.
Okay,
nice.
So people can check you out, like around the usual LA.
Yeah,
shows.
Mostly all the LA spots. Like been going to the store a little bit more, and Comedy and Magic Club a good amount, and then just wherever else will have me. Panchos, and there's Panchos in Manhattan Beach that I go to frequently.
Do you do any of the locals shows like Good Heroin and stuff like that?
I haven't been on Good Hair in a while. I'm gonna reach out, see if they'll have me. If they're watching, please put me back on.
They're great. Yeah, no,
they are.
I'm a big fan of them. Well, Ahmed, thank you for joining us, man. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you.
If you guys don't know, Ahmed was actually one of our first guests on a show I used to run called Woke Up Stand Up, and I invited him in particular because his experiences reminded me a lot of my own. I grew up with a foreign father, and who was also very brilliant. But would do weird things like mispronounce vegetables. He could explain cellular deconstruction to you in perfect English, but sofa, just the word sofa eluded him. He didn't know what it meant. So he was just like, "What is?" Go on, sorry, Derek.
I don't know how. I'm saying, like, in my mind, I'm running over the ways to mispronounce sofa, and I can't. How do you do that?
Well, it's not that he mispronounced it. It's just like on Ahmed's like dad in the bit on Ahmed's CD. I think the name of the record is, what is it? Some
Almond Badootie.
Almond Badootie.
Yeah, it was a really bad title because nobody's gonna remember that or know how.
No, I remember it. The problem is the pronunciation. I was like, I gotta get, because that's the funny part. But because my name is Basil. Well, my name isn't Basil. My name is Basil Faraj, and no one gets that right ever. Not even PhDs in physics, apparently. Like people just go straight to Basil, and So I empathize. I mean, all of your sort of material is stuff I really kind of connect with, because it's like, this is exactly what that experience is like. Like my dad will be like, he'll be like. Because he's a finance professor, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Corno duopoly quantities are really interesting." Blah blah blah, and then he'll be like, "What's the word for you sit on and you love seed? Love seed." Yeah, it's like, all right. Yeah. So
where's your dad from again?
He's Turkish, or I tell people I tell people he's white, but the type of white that has to get to the airport really early. So that's pretty good.
That's cool.
Pretty good summary.
I love thinking about it because in my mind, I'm thinking of one of my favorite Turkish people. It is Enes Kanter. That's who is standing in for your dad, because I've never seen a photo of him. And he's the same size as Enes Kanter. Just an enormous man.
Just imagine me just white. And you might be thinking to yourself, that's very silly. That can't be. That's my dad. That's exactly what he looks like. It's like, in a video game when you're just adjusting like the settings, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make this guy white. It's like, oh, he looks kind of funny. That's my dad. That's my dad. But no, he's Turkish. My mom's from the Sudan. Where were your folks from again?
My dad is born in Burma, but he's Indian, but they identify as Pakistani, so it's kind of complicated because they're Gujarati Indians, but they were born in Burma and then they emigrated to Pakistan. And then my mom's Irish, but born in Rhode Island, like American Irish.
Okay, love it, love it. Yeah, thank you, British. Thank you, British Empire. Yeah, it makes it real complicated. So, what have you been working? I invited you on. I told you this before we started talking, but I just like nice people. I think you're a nice person in comedy. I like connecting nice people in comedy. The purpose of this show is mostly just to talk to people I find interesting, and I think you're one of them. I mean, I don't think I've met another comic whose parents could claim to be Gujarati, Pakistanis, but also are from Burma, simultaneously. That's pretty it's pretty unique.
Yeah,
so
it's complicated.
I mean, my mom's from the Sudan, which is a whole thing too. But what have you been working on lately, man? What's been
lately? I've just been trying to do a bunch of more stand up. I got pretty rusty during the pandemic, had a baby during the pandemic, so I took a lot of time away. Thank you. But now just trying to get back on stage and write more jokes and get less rusty and get more comfortable again, and just build back up a new hour.
And how's that been going? Because I remember those days. Yeah,
it's it's fun to kind of be back in it and try to, I think I was taking stand up for granted. I've been doing it for a while. I guess coming up on almost 19 years. So I was getting bored at some point. Trying to almost tired of hearing my own voice. And then when I kind of went away from it, I'm like, oh wait, that was great. I was just kind of being spoiled by it. Like, oh, everybody does this, or everyone's a comedian and everyone's got lots to say. So what do I have to say? So now I'm like, well, at least I get to say stuff in front of groups of people and try to make them laugh and just kind of focus on that and not. I think I was putting too much pressure on myself before. Like, I need the best joke. I need the best set. And it's like, no, I just need to work on this funny little thought and make it funny and test it out and tweak it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there. Like, as you're going through the motion, you're like, I gotta be the best. If I'm not the best, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
And then, which doesn't really, when you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, there are tons of comics out there that are making money. And
exactly.
We all look at each other and we're like, that one's not that good.
Yeah.
Making tons of money, doing a great job.
Yeah. And a lot of jokes I have that are good, at some point they weren't good, or they weren't working as well. Yeah. And I just had to be more patient and push through it. Because a lot of times, I'd do a new joke, I wouldn't get a laugh, and I'm like, that joke sucks, I'm not going to do it again. But I'm trying to get myself to go, give it another shot. Try, reword it or try it for a different crowd. It doesn't have to be the killer joke that it ends up being.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of Nate Bargatze, that's what he told me. He was like,
really?
That's the advice he gave me was like, there's anything with it, one thing that you do, and I'm so sorry for interrupting you, Derek. I'll lob it back at you. If there's anything you do, it's just don't give up on the joke. Don't give up on it. Keep figuring it out. So
I was just watching you earlier, and I definitely saw that in I as a comic, you come up with a tag that's good. All right, here's the joke, and then it's like maybe you do another one. But I noticed at one point it was like you had at least 5 to 10. Like you were just like, I know you probably had, I felt like you had 30 of them lined up ready to go. And
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to keep throwing these out, and as they like them, I'm going to keep doing it. And it was just,
Yeah.
you could do that thing where you start, it's funny, and then everybody's like, oh, he's still going, and like it becomes really impressive, and then it becomes funny again. You're just like, it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah, I'm
nice.
trying to
Like,
get myself to remember that like, so much of like my jokes, the tag is what like really builds upon it. So
Your tags are
even if
good.
like, just the premise is like an okay joke, once you're on it, you kind of have everyone's mind on it, and then you can kind of keep them there and like be like, well, what about this? Because at first maybe like a lot of stuff I talk about is like minutia. So maybe at first people are like, I don't care about like grapes or whatever. But then
right.
you're talking about grapes for like 5 minutes, and now people are like, yeah, okay, okay, I see what you're saying.
Exactly. It was, I loved it. It was
Thank you.
yeah, I had just watched your new the thing you did about it was all it was, you started off talking about bugs.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Just
I love that bit.
yeah.
I love that bit.
Thank you.
And
And that one can like be hit or miss, right? Like I'll do that one, and sometimes people will love it, and I'll do that one, and sometimes crowds are just like, dude, what the are you talking about? Like, because I feel like sometimes people think it's like I'm like pranking them or something, that I'm
Well,
like talking about like a bug.
well, what do you think because like I've seen lots of, I mean, like Baron Vaughn, shout out to Baron,
Yeah, I love Baron.
does this amazing bit on crickets and wasps that, I mean, it to
I
this
gotta check
day,
that out.
like it's so, there's this bit he talks about wasps where he says, he's like, a wasp doesn't have a job and has a weapon. That is a thug. That's not an insect. That is a criminal, and it's very funny. It's very funny.
That's great.
Um, so I'm all for jokes on the minutia. I don't. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what makes
yeah,
me
me
laugh.
too. I
Yeah,
almost think like like I like kind of all kinds of jokes, and sometimes I
sure.
like doing like political stuff or whatever. But maybe because like lately there's been such a hyper focus on like kind of
Right.
political stuff or like whatever's like the hot button issues. Like my brain wants to do the opposite. I'm like, oh, everyone's talking about what's serious or
Attaboy.
like what's
Attaboy.
this. So now it's like I want to kind of go. Well, also, like nothing is funny, right? Like we see these little bugs that we like all see throughout our
right.
lives, and like here's some things I noticed about them, and then you probably noticed them too if once you stop and think about it. And
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
You've called it out, and you're like, have you guys ever noticed that? And they're like, I did notice that. I didn't have the words
Yeah.
for it yet because
Yeah.
but now that you say it,
So
yes.
say the words, and
That's perfect.
that's.
But
I think Derek, your
there was a
comedy's like
time.
that. Yeah.
Oh, there was a time. Was like the dictionary tweeted out like a word, and it was the word for a small hole in a hedge that an animal goes through. It's a very, very specific word, and they got like just inundated with retweets and people being like, I keep seeing these now. Every time I drive around, I see these in hedges, and I'd never noticed them, but because they had a word for it, now
Do you
it
know
is a
the word?
thing.
Now I want to know the word.
No, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't remember the word. I'm not
Is
good
that a
with
hedge
words.
hole or something?
Yeah. I will find it. Oh man, this is gonna be.
That's the interesting thing about language, though. I
Yeah.
mean, shout out to KRS-One. I don't remember what verse it was, but he was basically like, yeah, as soon as you learn the word of something, it's like, I don't know, it's like almost gaining this like deity, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's such a insane, or for me, anyways, especially as a English isn't my first language, so as a non-native English speaker, learning the word or learning what a word meant was always a huge deal for me. But then those small moments for words that you never don't typically encounter in everyday use in English language, that was like another layer. Especially when I was trying
Yeah.
to sort of express my own ideas and like writing and stand up and stuff like that. It's like, and it's just like little
Yeah.
stuff. It
Language
doesn't.
is so important.
All right, I
Yeah.
found the words, and
What
now
is
I
it?
remember why I can never remember these words because I don't know how to pronounce it. But I'm going to do my best.
Do it.
It's smoose. It is.
Smoosh.
Yeah, it's spelled SMEUSE. It's smoosh.
Yeesh.
And that is
That's pretty
for
funny.
any animal going through a hedge. But if it's just a hare, then it is a smout.
Smout.
Yeah.
Sounds like
And
something like Dame Cook would say or something. English smout.
there's a smout, and there's a squiggle, and that's to wriggle through a hedge. It's a squiggle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. Like who did that? Who made that choice and
Some
who
loser
made that decision?
Some loser.
Was it a
for
group
sure.
of people or just one guy? Like just
There's people
one
in
person?
Essex. That's where it says Essex.
That's Essex.
What would you call this thing? I would call it a smooch, probably.
Smooch.
Yeah.
Smooch.
So you're writing this new. You're writing. Trying to aim for a new hour. What are the?
Yeah.
This is something I ask Derek all the time. And by the way, shout out to Derek. So I'm of this gathering here. Usually we have another co-host named Ben, and he's like the baby comic. But now I'm the baby comic or former baby comic. I only hit like 5-6 years. You guys are both well into your 20s. So you guys are like, legitimate comics. I know Derek rolls his eyes whenever I say that, but it's true. I wonder, because I ask Derek this all the time, like, what sort of challenges are you encountering building the new, like, I don't know what your experience is like at your level, but for me, just getting 10 seconds. Like I used to write 10 minutes every month. In Chicago, I read, and out of those 10 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I can use maybe like 5 or 10 seconds of this. And that was a grind. Yeah. What's your experience been like?
I think a similar experience, like just coming up with a new idea, that's the hardest part, right? Like it's almost like once you have an idea, then you can put work into it. You can go, okay, what else? Let me try it again. Let me expand upon it. But that initial little nugget, I don't know where to find those. They just, sometimes they just appear. And sometimes I'm better at being proactive about it. Like I feel like I started getting back in the grind, and I was doing pretty good. Just, making myself sit and write down some ideas or look over past ideas and then forcing myself to do them on stage. I've kind of got a little bit lazier again, with my kids doing other things. So then, then I just go up and kind of do jokes I've been working on, which is, that's valuable too, to like tweak jokes and, just get confident. But yeah, I think it's just finding just something to talk about, right? Like where do you, and I think for me, the where I find them is when I allow my mind to wander, but with a pen nearby or with the intent of when it lands on something, writing it down. It's kind of this, like, I can't just sit at a desk and go like, what's funny? This is funny. Usually I think of them when I'm walking and I have my phone off, which my phone is never off now. So that's a big problem. Like I'm always listening to someone else talking, which is, not great for me to think of my own ideas. But yeah, I think it's just finding those just little nuggets of something that interests you.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was in a car with, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Oh, I was going to say, I always like to find out about I feel like every comic has like their gear that like they keep with them. Like, some people, they like to type it into their phone. I always liked 3x5 notebooks, like the little spiral ones.
Yeah.
And it would be like, I got my pen and my notebook, and my notebook is in my back pocket, so I can just write it down. Like I heard somebody say something stupid, writing that.
Yeah.
Down, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell everybody about it.
Exactly. I find that hard too. Is since when I first started, I had this little notebook that I loved, and I'd always keep it in my pocket. Maybe it is 3x5, or it fits in my pocket. Is that something like that? But then once I got my phone, it kind of replaced it, and it kind of isn't the same. I need to write it down, so I kind of go back and forth. I do a lot of voice recording.
Oh yeah,
or if I'm in my car. I actually been starting to just like when I'm driving on, I had a couple road gigs. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna start recording and just start talking. And a lot of cool things came out that way. I was kind of just more going through memories of my life, and I'm like, oh, that was like a thing, because you don't realize how much information you have already in your head from your own life that is almost dormant and only comes up when someone else is like, oh, when I was a kid, I I peed my pants, and you're like, I remember when I peed my pants, and then you have all this huge story that was there that you almost forgot about.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had that many times. In a lot of times when I'm waiting to go on stage and the show is there. I'll just be sitting and listening to what they're saying, and it'll spark like memories that
Yes.
aren't bits. But since we've already talked about it, I can. It's not gonna be weird if I bring it up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's like how you would in a conversation around the table with your friends, right? They tell a
Right.
story about something, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I can tell mine." But, yeah, I got in trouble when I was a kid for a similar thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I don't know, people love that. I love going to a show, and then the next comic is like, "Oh, that comic was listening to the comic before, and now they're like engaging in a conversation with us." I think that's so cool.
You mean art? You like art,
Yeah.
Ahmed? Yeah, it's almost as if
I love when a host does that. Like when a host is just like,
me too.
"Oh, speaking of that guy's thing, here's my thing." And you're like,
Here's a
"Oh,
quick-
now I feel like this is part of one piece."
Yeah. Here's a quick joke, and I'm out because I'm a good host. Yeah. No, I love that too. So two things. I also record myself a lot in Chicago. And Derek, you probably remember this. I used to, when I started out, I did 30 mics a week, and I recorded every single set, and I watched every single set, and I continued to do that throughout all of. Took a lot of drugs to get through it, and the listening to myself part, and that helped tremendous. I mean, I was a weirdo. I had a spreadsheet with all my jokes, and I was like, all right, this will elicit on average 3 seconds of laughter. This will I'm not even joking. That's how I did it. Derek, you're laughing because I'm the type to do that.
No, I can see that.
Like that's how obsessive I was. The other who was it that told me to wait? Who was it? Mike Kaplan. I think it was in the back of the car. Was Zahid? I forgot his last name, but he writes for the Tonight Show. And Mike Kaplan turned to Zahid. They were just talking. We were just bullshitting. And he turned to Zahid, and he was like, "Zahid, you just said 12 funny things, and you didn't write any of them down, and you didn't record any of them down." And I was like, "Okay, Mike, yeah." Message received. Newbie comic just listening in on two people. I was like, all right. That's when I started recording myself all the time. And yeah, man, it works. I mean, to your point, like I don't do comedy really anymore. But I've been talking to a lady person, or what's that old joke? I forget the joke. Who was it? He was like, I don't have no, I don't. Hello, test.
Okay.
You said lady and then you froze. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a lady.
Wow.
lady?
I have a lady. Yeah, no, I have a lady person, and she writes down. For months she was telling me she's writing down the things that I said, and I was like, I don't believe you. That's a weird thing to do. And then yesterday she just plopped a notebook of all the things that I said, and I say a lot of crazy things apparently, and it reminded me. I know. I was like, "What is it?" And she's like, "No, I think it's so funny." I'm like, like there's a line.
So does my lawyer.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what is this? But it's funny because it's like it reminded me of it. It brought me back to comedy of all those sort of random moments and random thoughts. Like, yeah, because I'll just ramble to her and be like, "Oh, women in certain countries are way more beautiful than the men." And I guess apparently I was talking about Somalia and India. No disrespect. I was like, I think the girls are much hotter. And I was like, is the lesson here than the guys? Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely.
Like, these guys PU. Suck.
Yeah. Yep. Not attractive. But then I thought about it, and I was like, if I still did comedy, I would probably try to write a bit about this. I thought about it. I was like, does that mean ugly is necessary? Because you don't get all these beautiful, Somali or Desi girls without a little bit of the ugly sauce. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? So yeah. Go on.
See a bit like that.
Yeah. And so it was just interesting because it was like, it made me miss those days where I would just, because to her, to her, I'm being funny, but in my head, I'm just rambling. I'm just saying
Yeah.
what's in
I
my
almost, I
head.
mean, to me, that's like my long-term goal is to get comfortable enough to just almost ramble on stage and allow your, because I think some of the best comics, it's just they get to a point where they just allow thoughts to come out of their head and then pursue them in front of people and then find the gold in this like cool way, or just people who are riffing and things like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I almost have too much of a filter. I'm like, thinking too much, like, okay, well, what's the next part, or what should I say, or how do I, rather than just how you do in regular life, like when you're with someone in a car and you're just going, well, this is what I think, blah 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 blah, and it's good, and the other person's interested, and they're like, yeah, that's funny, or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
That's crazy, because when I was watching you, I never got any sense that you were I feel like you just had the act outs ready, and I loved
Oh,
all of
thanks.
your act outs.
Yeah, I
They
guess I
weren't
don't
just
always think about the act out. Like it's not like a planned thing, which yeah, I would like to have that be everything I do is not so planned. But then I do kind of feel robotic in a way where once I get locked into that bit, that's the bit. There's not going to be like, I'm not going to veer from that bit. Like that bit is okay. Here's my bug bit. Like right now, actually, I'm having to like shorten it for something, and it's like hard for me to do on stage. Where I'm like, okay, I got to jump from this part to this part. Don't do that part in the middle. And I'm like, okay, my brain is like attached to that. This word comes after that word.
Yeah, it was like listening to a mixed CD where you're like, oh, I know what comes after the song, and then all of a sudden,
yeah.
You're like, whoa,
yeah,
this
exactly.
is, what are we listening to? Is this the radio? This is crazy.
I wanted to ask, because I like your comedy. I think it's very, what are the kids? I think I do think it's wholesome. Like I know comedy often comes from a dark place, but there are, I think, some comics who are able to pull off just, I don't know, a certain, I mean, Bargatze's pretty good at that. He's amazing at that, right? Where he's just able to talk about this sort of wholesome thing, like, oh, marriage, it's really tough. It feels like, my wife and I, it's like marriage and prison are the, two places where there's like the most tension, and it's like, it's funny and there's still a little bit of darkness to it, but it's also not simultaneously. It's still very you connect to it, and it still feels very wholesome, is the best word I can find for it. Do you, as someone who writes a very particular particular flavor of comedy, and who has kind of seen how the zeitgeist has transformed over the years, like, do you find any difficulty in writing new material now, or what's
a little bit.
what's your take?
I do. I struggle with that because I don't like we were kind of talking before we got on the podcast, where I don't really want to come across as like this like wholesomey clean, like I'm never gonna offend you, right? Like I don't want to, and it is kind of my personality, and I don't want to be this fake like like
right,
you idiots and everything sucks and whatever.
But you still got bits like that, like the one with your sister. I love that bit where you're just like, she's like, you're like, I don't know, I want to be. What did you say? You're like, I want, she has a black boyfriend, and I want to be welcoming, but also I still got to be the big brother. That's a great balance of those energies, right? That's such a great joke for that. Yeah.
So
I still think you do
but
that.
I do. Sometimes I'm pulled in the way where I'm like, well, I want to write, like, I think about the next time I'm just in a rowdy bar. Like, I want to have some stuff in my pocket to be like, here's this for you guys. Like, I'm still me, but I want to meet you guys somewhere where you're not like, I'm not just like, bugs, guys, quiet down, I'm back. So I do like find that pull in different directions, but I also don't want to be someone I'm not. So yeah, there's this. And then I also I can't help it. Like I think of something funny, and then that's the way it comes out. It comes out in like this, like, kind of innocent, like silly perspective. But yeah, I think it's good to play with being, pushing yourself into, like, I have some jokes about porn or whatever. I still think they come across as like kind of a clean joke, but like, yeah, I don't know. I want to have a mix. I want to find like, I like to find my own edge, right? Like I'm not necessarily like the most edgy comic, but I want to be finding my own edge
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, I'm kind of teasing, or I'm showing that the world is dark, and I see the world as a very dark place, but I also laugh at it, or it's
Right.
I see the darkness, and then I'm like, well, who cares? We're all gonna die, and
Yeah.
everything's bad anyway, or whatever. So we might as
Yeah.
well like joke about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I
That
kind of
is
look at the world.
That's I love that perspective so much. I was gonna ask. Okay, so you're in the rowdy bar. I feel like the Pinocchio bit that's gonna pull everybody in because everybody's seen
Oh, thanks.
Pinocchio, and then
Yeah,
you start talking
I
about
I
it.
I think you're right, but sometimes I find that I'm like, why is nobody liking this part or whatever? Because
Oh,
I think
okay.
sometimes, and I could just be projecting my own insecurity onto the audience. Sometimes I'm going into that bit and I'm like, are they thinking like, I don't care about Pinocchio? Why are you talking about Pinocchio? I want to hear about like and and
Right.
and politics or whatever it is, or that,
Yeah.
and that could
But I
be just
love
my
that.
own projection.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
love
sometimes you
that.
have to not give them what they want and go, well, no, this is
Yeah.
me, and then they go, oh, that is fun. I
Yeah.
think, but I struggle with that in my own head where I'm like, am I just? It's like when I was in Rhode Island doing a bunch of comedy, I'd go to Boston, and maybe my stuff was a little bit more
Yeah.
like progressive or whatever it was, and I would come to Rhode Island and I would almost blame that for why I wasn't getting laughs. Like, oh, they don't want to hear this. But then as I got a little more confident, I'm like, oh no, maybe it was I was being gun shy to them,
Yeah.
thinking like, you don't want to hear this, do you? And like they're sensing that, so they're going like, I don't want to hear this. But then if you just give it to
Sell
them
it.
full force,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is funny. I don't care what you talk about as long
This
as it's
isn't
funny.
a trap, I promise you. But do you ever do a lot of black crowds?
I guess I haven't in a while, but I feel like when I first started, I did probably more.
Go
Yeah,
do black. Go do black crowds.
yeah.
Do
I
black crowds.
think that they
That
definitely like those
th-
crowds like make
they'll get
you like be you, right? They want to
exactly.
see you be you. They don't want to see you pander.
I've seen the weirdest alt Chicago comics, the weirdest Chicago alt comics destroy black rooms, not because the audience was laughing. I mean, they laugh, maybe not as hard as another comic that might come on stage, but they end up like what I kind of learned from my early days, at least trying to work black rooms in Southside, was especially with the way I talk and the way I look. I'm like, I am, not the antithesis. That I'm not what
Yeah,
I'm not what
what they came out to
ex-
see.
exactly. But it's what I learned from them, that if you just are 100% unashamed and unabashed, and you're like, this is me,
Yeah, they
they will
appreciate it.
still like after the show they'll be like, yeah, some parts were funny, I don't know, but I like you. And I'm like, all right, good,
Yeah,
we're making progress, we're figuring it
That's
out.
yeah,
that's amazing. I love that you're like, oh yeah, comedy's not great, but I like you personally, and you're like, you know
yeah.
what? I'm gonna take it.
That's
I'm gonna take
no,
that as a
no,
win.
because that means I can write a joke later, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
foundation for me. Like, okay,
Yeah.
now you're on my side. So what I need to do is just work on the bit. And that was the lesson early on. I mean,
Yeah.
the worst bomb, we could talk about worst bombs if you guys want to. There's two I remember. There's one I remember in my bones. But there's the worst bomb I ever had that off the top of my memory was my first time doing a black room out in Southside Chicago. It went so badly, and they did not like it, and I could tell because an old man, this actually happened. An old man stood up and said, "Hey, we don't like this." And I was like, "I think they don't. I think they don't
Yeah.
like it. I think they don't like it." And so yeah, that kind of inspired me to be like, all right, I'll still work the alt rooms, I'll still go to the Lincoln Lodge, I'll still go to these places, but there's a different sort of gym here that I still need
Yeah,
to kind
Yeah.
of participate in. So
I
I
like that
like
because it's like you can't just win them over by telling them what that you think they want to hear.
right.
You have to just
black people do
say
not
what
do
you.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do not do that. Yeah,
it's good.
yeah,
The way I feel like what you're describing is the like you just got to be you and more you. Like the Lauren Hill at the Apollo, and she's like 13, and everybody's booing her, and she just starts singing way harder, and then they come around like,
Yep.
Which,
the classic Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of you.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that because he was probably scared of those.
Yeah,
like, that's what.
And have you seen like who went on before him?
Mm-mm. Oh, it was
the whole context of that is great.
It was in a Tucker. Tucker destroyed. Yeah,
I thought I think I've seen like the
Tucker
whole
comes
thing.
after.
Whoever went on before him, they were struggling, and that's why Bernie Mac like he told the sound guy to like put that music on because he was like he was going out to like what he saw was like just like a hostile. And he just leaned into it, and it's cool if you watch the whole episode because the first guy's like kind of and and they're just like not having it. So then that's why Bernie comes out like, okay, like I gotta come at you guys.
and I've heard Bill Burr do the same thing with it was like an Opie and Anthony crowd, and he just rails on the crowd for like 15 minutes, counting it down the whole time. Breaks the mic stand. He's like, your city sucks. Yeah, he's like,
it's Boston.
Philadelphia.
Oh no, Philadelphia.
It's Philadelphia. Yeah, I've seen that.
Got a statue of Rocky. He's not even a real person. Oh man, this is a fun one.
That's the secret sauce where you just can be you no matter what's going on.
You know who else did that? People don't know this. Ken Jeong. I don't know if you know who Ken Jeong is.
Yeah.
He used to just do black crowds, bro. There's like videos of it. It's so I did not expect that at all. And he would just go in and just tear it up. And it's amazing. Because if you don't Ken Jeong's a doctor. I'm the son of immigrants. You already won, Ken. What are you doing? Why are you out here trying to become an artist? Like you can't it wasn't enough that you already won. You're a neurosurgeon, or he's something
imagine
crazy.
Like being in the doctor's office.
Internal medicine.
Talking to your doctor, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing open mic tonight."
You guys.
I feel like you would not want that doctor.
He's like,
here's your results.
I would not at all.
Want to come to my show tomorrow?
It's 2 drink minimum. If you could say you're from me, I get a little bit extra.
What is going on? What is going on at the doctor who does an open mic? I wonder. Like, is it?
I think that's just human nature. No matter what you're doing, you want something else, or you're like bored, or you're like, what else is there, right?
Or your wife left you. I think that's another really good one.
Yeah.
You
did your thing. You went to school. You were serious forever, and you're like, man, this isn't making me happy.
That is an immigrant move, though. Like to do what your parents. No, it is because it's like, hey, I'm gonna hate myself, and it's like, what do mom and dad want? Engineering school, fine.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah.
You went to engineering school?
I was trying to be an engineer, and then I switched to theater.
What kind of engineer?
What kind?
I was going to be a mechanical engineer because I liked like robotics and I liked building stuff, and I was good at math. And my dad wanted to be an engineer, so I thought I'll be an engineer, and I still wanted to do comedy and acting, and I just thought I'll get a good job, and that will support all the other stuff. And I realized like you can't have time to do both of those things to be like
you just end up being me. I've been 52 for 32 years now. Ahmed. I look terrible. So
I love talking to engineers though about because I found out that there's kind of a like in comedy, there's like stand-ups, there's improvisers, and it's like there's a little bit of a duel there. Like improvisers seem like they're having a really good time, and stand-ups really don't like that they're having such a good time. And I find that engineers kind of have that too. You talk to somebody who's a chemical engineer or mechanical.
Yeah.
Like I was asking my friend, I was like, what kind of engineer do you not like? And he's like, oh, industrial engineer. Because it's not a real engineer.
Yeah.
It's like a feng shui of machines.
A lot of people hate software engineers. I'll tell you that because we're not even allowed in like the engineering like league. Like they have a league. They have a league.
Like, what do you mean league? Sports league?
Like it's like an association.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like you're. It's like all types of engineers get to go in. The only people who aren't allowed in this association, and it's a big deal. Like it's a prestigious thing. If you're a software engineer, you can go f yourself, is what they say. You're not a real engineer, and I've always found that funny. I've always found that really funny. Yeah.
Is it because like what you're doing is just on a computer?
I don't know. I think nerds. It's really. Have you ever explored the hierarchy of nerds?
Oh yeah, nerds can be really like hierarchical.
Yeah, and I always find that hilarious because it's like you're all losers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. It's like
That's why you need it. You need the like. You're like I might not be a tough guy, but I'm better than you.
Like, yeah, but are you though? It's like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like I've seen you cry over a girl. Like that's the thing. That's the thing I struggle with. At no one at work watches this, but that's the thing I used to struggle with in like
crying over girls.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, every single.
That's why
time.
the picture
Everyone
froze
does.
that last time you talked about that.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. Lady,
crying.
yeah, just tears. I have a girlfriend. She's real, and yeah, no, the
Canada.
She yeah, she does.
That's why you're in South America right now.
She's don't let her know I'm here. I started a local men's group called Are We Avoiding the Same Woman? And we're all we just talk about our experiences. No, it's gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. It's so
nerds
funny.
And hierarchies, crying over women.
Yeah, that's the. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like you'll be in a room full of engineers and you'll try to solve a problem, and it just feels like the whole time. And comics do this too, right? Like where it's like you're trying. Like maybe it is just a human thing, but like engineers will do this weird thing where it's like you don't know as much about Linux kernels as I do.
Yeah,
and it's like yeah, dude. Like you know what I mean? Like it's like yeah, man. I don't. I had sex in college. Like I don't know what these things are, but I can solve problems. And I don't want to be king. Like it's the same with comedy. Like I don't want to be king of the nerds. I don't want to be king of the scenesters. I just want to do what I do and do it well. And that seems to be tough in any sort of group.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like, I think that is, like you said, human nature, where it's like wherever you are, you just need to feel like you're better than somebody, right? Like you need to feel like you have a little bit of power, and if it's what you're good at, you hold that thing in higher regard, right? Like, oh, you don't know the thing I know, and that's what matters because that's how I am holding on to like feeling important.
Yeah, because otherwise,
there's definitely I've felt that within. That's one of the reasons I always said that my friend group is like, we're not getting any better because everybody is like, I'm not as bad.
Yes. Comics do that. I've always noticed that. I started noticing that with myself. You know, it's fun to like get with your comic friends and complain about like some other comic. And I tried to kind of break that habit out of myself because I started realizing like it was like just almost an excuse to not get better or to, it's just a distraction. And also like there's so many different kinds of comedy, and you just see that like some comics would just like on another comic because they did a different kind of comedy.
Yeah, that was always weird.
Why is that person successful? They do this or that. It's like, well, because some people like that thing that they're doing. And you don't like it, and you don't have to like it, and you don't have to do it.
Why are they doing that material that works? I don't like that. I don't like the material that works.
And I started almost trying to look at people like that and learn from them, like learn from someone I don't like. Learn from someone who's like not my style. And I go, well, how are they making this style that I don't like work?
Right. Oh yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day about that. They're like, Dane Cook's not funny. And I was like, yeah. Or is it you don't like what he's saying?
Yeah.
Because the way he says it
is
works.
Funny.
Like he has done a good so if you're starting with the premise that his material is no good, then that's he's even better than you thought because he started and he turned it into gold. Something better than we do.
And so much of like opinion is like that where it's like it's not good. You're like, well, you don't like it. Like,
right, exactly.
You can say you don't like it. It doesn't mean that it is not good. Like it is zero. It has zero value.
That was the thing I didn't understand doing comedy, actually, because like I grew up, and Derek knows this about me. I grew up loving comedy, like realized this in the shower the other day. I've been listening because I didn't know English for a while, an embarrassing amount of time.
You should be
And
embarrassed.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But I did. I just refused to learn English. I was like, this language is stupid. It's
You're
not
like
really.
You said
6 or 7,
that?
you were like,
You said this
yeah.
language is stupid. That's pretty good
In
English.
Arabic. In Arabic. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. But I said that to my mom. I was like, this language is stupid. When am I ever going to use it? And she was like, we live in the U.S. And I was like, I don't really see what that has to do with anything. So like, so yeah, no, I've been listening to stand up and watching stand ups for 24 years since I was 8 years old. I've been watching stand up comedy because I love. I mean, I have a framed picture of Carlin and Jon Stewart like here in my office. Like it's
like boxers.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to get an AI art and make that.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Comedy fights.
You gotta do that. I would frame that. I really would frame that. No, I love comedy so much. Like, and my history, watching Dwayne Kennedy, Derek. Like, I've been watching when I was a kid. I used to pretend like at the was it middle school? I tried to tell one of Dwayne's jokes and nobody got it. Dwayne Kennedy, if you don't know, is he's on Seinfeld, but he's the greatest comedian. What does the New York Times call him? The most famous comedian you've never heard of.
Okay.
Or I like to call him Black Derek Smith. And he's just fantastic. And I've just been watching guys like him since I was like literally trying to learn English. I probably improved my English because I just loved watching stand up and watching Jon Stewart. I watched Jon Stewart from 2010 to when he finished the show, when he stopped doing the show. So, and my point in saying that is that it's interesting to me that people will go to these shows with one another and say, I will find there's so many comics where it's like, okay, maybe I don't like, laugh at most of their material, but I'm like, oh, that's a really funny idea. And I'm going to laugh out loud. Right. And I find that I understand some comics will not laugh because they're thinking about the joke. I do that all the time. With my friends, they'll say something and they're like, you don't really laugh a lot. And I'm like, my friends are professional comedians, right? Like, it's like that Nate Bargatze joke. Like my friends are professional comedians. You're going to have to do better than that. But putting that aside, it always struck me that like people weren't willing to give each other that. Yeah. That like, oh, that was funny. Like I would say like, oh, I like this person, and people be like, that person's, they're not funny.
Yeah.
They suck. And I'm like, I don't know where that comes from.
I know.
Can you guys
that makes
help me
me
out?
sad. Yeah, I struggle with that a lot because I'm like the opposite. Like I like kind of saying like, oh, good job, or that was funny, or I like appreciating things. It doesn't mean I think it's the funniest thing ever.
Sure.
But I like seeing value in it. And sometimes people almost disagree with it. Like, no, you have to have this like standard or I just don't agree with that. I think it's like, everything doesn't have to be an A plus, but if someone has like a little nugget of something that they thought of, they see the value in it, and it gives you value by seeing the positive thing it's added into the room or whatever it is, rather than just being like, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough to make me laugh. And I don't always laugh at everything, but I try to find ways to laugh, because then you're just cheating yourself out of appreciation. Like, I don't know, I have I'm picky, and I like, when you watch a movie, it's like, I don't like that movie. But sometimes I just feel like people think if they like less things, it makes their taste better.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, I'm hard to impress, so what I like is the best. And it's like, that doesn't, that doesn't mean that your taste is the best just because you like less things.
It just means you're a jerk and are not fun to be around. Yeah. The
thing, I don't like anybody in the world. All right.
Well, and I think it almost is maybe like a diminishing returns thing where, it's just kind of sad where it's like, like when you're a kid, everything's cool, right? Like, walking is cool, jumping, just any tiny thing is cool. Then the older you get, it's like everything, there's just this diminishing returns of like, well, that like mundane. We can go to like I saw the first, I didn't see the new Avatar, but I remember I saw the first Avatar and I didn't really like it. And I just remember thinking like, I think that week I saw some kid just like walking down the street, just like going like, woo. And and I'm like, man, how did I get here? Where like I see this like giant big budget movie, like, and I'm like, eh. It's like that's more on me that like I just can't find the joy in it, where I've
That's
just seen too many movies or I've heard too many jokes, and so you're like, no, not good enough. It's not firing my serotonin or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
more your brain is not stimulating it, but that doesn't mean the thing itself is broken or not good or has
right,
no value.
right,
Oh
right.
man, I like this idea though. Like if I would like to do a show where we just get a group of people that are just terrible and mean about everything. And we just take them and we just give them like some kind of something that would help regulate their serotonin
Yeah,
levels.
yeah,
So they'd be like, do you want to feel the it's like awaking joy, maybe we call it that.
yeah.
Just
That's so funny. That's
yeah.
so funny. I mean,
I like.
I relate to that too. I mean, like this morning I saw an Instagram video of a guy who expressed so much joy because he saw a train pass, and I was like, "What is what?" And he's not on anything. It's just
Yeah,
he's just like, "This is
and
amazing. This is
he's right. He's right.
Mm.
he's right." Yeah,
Ah,
like trains are like.
Trains are
I mean, when,
cool.
I mean, when you think about like what like because this is the engineering part of me, but it's like what it took to make a train, the history of the train, how it changed human
Yeah.
society. It's like actually there is kind of a joy to that. There is kind of a beauty to that. There is kind of a
Yeah.
beauty. As much as I hate people who like clap when airplanes land, I also kind of get it.
Yeah.
I hate them. I still hate them.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like
Yeah.
it's like this was a kind of amazing. We were in the air for
Yeah.
hours, and now we're somewhere else, and no one got hurt. That's actually kind of amazing.
We just fell from thousands of feet high,
right,
and everybody's like, oh, I hope my
Yeah,
bags
this
are-"
sucks.
right. Yeah, it's like, oh, the flight was terrible. You were defying God just 20
Yeah.
minutes ago. Like,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what I think that's a good microcosm of what sometimes we all are, especially as comedians who've seen endless of hours of comedy.
yeah,
It's eventually like hard to admit that something's good unless it blows your mind open, unless
Yeah.
it's like the best laugh you ever had. You're like, nah, that guy sucks, or that girl sucks, that girl's not funny, or that guy's not funny, or whatever, because it's not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
and don't we all kind of suck? Oh, sorry, Derek. Go on. Go
Yeah.
on.
As almost like, I don't know, it's like as you get experience more of it, if it was like color, it would just be like you begin to lose the ability
Yeah.
to see the color.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
no.
this great rainbow, and you're like, I don't really see anything. I
Yeah,
don't see
yeah.
anything at all.
It's
This is
just
all black and
purple.
white to me now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just purple. It's like
Yeah.
Grimace.
Yeah.
And Grimace is very funny. The thing that strikes me about that too is the fact that, like, I don't know about you guys. Who do you think are like? There's very few like people I would consider. I've watched so much comedy, and there's very few people I would say like this person's a genius, right? Like like Dana Gould. Derek, you and I talk about Dana.
I like
a
Dana Gould
lot.
a lot.
So funny.
I like a very he's in that territory. The first time I listened to Nick Vatterott, I was like, no one who does that. Like it's like, oh, you're like I'm listening to an album and I'm like, are you pretending to be a TV right now? That's changing.
Yeah.
That's like being flipped through and changing channel. Like that to me, like that's why
his
there's no
joke
point.
where he's like the video game character that no one's controlling. His act out on that.
His
But the
act
thing-
outs are amazing. I love him so much.
But like
He is
how
one
many?
of the best ones I've ever seen, and I don't think it's on any album. It was just
Yeah, it's
we were
not.
at it was on a show, and he could just hear the train just a little bit because it would go right by the window, and so he's like, I was waiting here, and there's a woman. You hear her. We're on the train, and she is running up the stairs, and he's doing it. She runs. The door is closed, and she grabs it. She pulls it open, steps inside, and then she looks at the sign and realizes she's on the wrong train, and then it closes. She grabs the window and flies. It was so good. I was like, you can't even do that if you don't reference the train. If everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
the train, I get what a train is. Like,
and the thing about that for me is like true. If there are a few true geniuses in comedy, I know there are a lot of comics who fancy themselves geniuses, but like true genius in comedy is like so rare and also most of the time ignored. So what's the point in on everybody? Just focus on doing your
but again, I think that comes from making yourself feel better a little bit, or because it is nice to talk or whatever. There's a catharsis to it.
Sure.
So I think sometimes it's like a cheaper way to feel better about yourself is like, well, at least I'm not that idiot.
Exactly.
I can only do that if someone sucks though. If they don't suck, I feel bad. I'm like, and by suck, I don't mean suck at comedy. There's lots of people. It's like a bad person. Yeah. If you're like a nice, if you can't be not funny and mean. It's like being fat and mean. It's like you can't be. You got to choose one. Sorry.
Pick one.
You gotta be one. So I can do that. I'll talk. About that.
But I just think that's what it is. That's how I see it when I see that happening. It's usually insecurity or someone's kind of unhappy, and that's like a little
unhappy
sugar high. Yeah, it's like a sugar high.
Yeah.
Like, look at this hack, this sellout, this person who's cheating. They're cheating the system, or they're getting stuff they don't deserve, not because they're talented or hardworking. It's because they like.
But even let's put that let's put that aside though. Is comedy a meritocracy?
No,
not really.
Yeah. So then why the would you?
But I would say like when I moved to LA, I feel like there was a lot of like seeing like, why is this person getting on stuff? And in a way, it can be a meritocracy where it doesn't necessarily mean like whoever is the most talented, but sometimes when you see someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of talent, a lot of times they're getting stuff because they're working really hard, and like that should count for something, right? Like
it does.
They're putting in a lot of work, but even that is not always true. Sometimes it's just who you're in the right area, you're whatever. And I think that's life.
Some people are really good, gorgeous, and they're kind of funny. And honestly, I would trade 90% of material to be gorgeous.
What? Yeah. What? No. Let's dig this vein. Explain this to me. Why?
Well, I mean, why? Because you look great in promo photos. Like, you automatically you stick out in every poster. If you are a gorgeous person, and then there are 7 photos on a poster, it's like, come out to this comedy night, and one of them is basically Brad Pitt. You're like, who's that?
It's funny how much more attractive comedians there are now.
Wait, there are attractive comedians? Wait. Hang on. Yeah. No. Slow down, because
more than there used to be.
Right.
I feel like comics have, and maybe this is actually because I live I've lived around the world. I just feel like maybe it's an American thing, but I just hear, oh, there are a lot of attractive people here, and I'm like, where? Like, this is
that's also a subjective or objective or
Yeah, it's subjective.
But I think people. Like at least whether or not they're actually attractive, there's at least like they're trying to be more. Like I feel like comedians, like someone like Sam Kinison or like Rodney Dangerfield, like they weren't like trying to be like a handsome guy,
right?
But now like there is like this like cool, sleek like style of comedy that's like
what.
But like you said, it looks good on a poster. It looks good on it. It probably sells like tickets and stuff, and people like attractive people, so they're look at this person. And not saying they're not funny. Like some of them are funny, but to me, like as a kid, when you're watching comedy, you kind of always thought of the funny people as the funny looking people, or like the odd, like that guy, you got a funny face, or their hair is weird,
or he talks funny. Greer Barnes has weird rhythms. Yeah.
I have to call myself out. I just did the thing that we just talked about, where I'm talking somebody because I'm jealous.
But that's okay. You didn't name anyone.
I was trying to make myself feel better, and
but you didn't name anyone. You didn't name
No,
anyone.
no, I didn't.
You can name names if you want, real quick.
I'm not. No, because I just
No?
said I was wrong to do it.
Oh, fair.
I
I
mean,
used
but
to do
fair.
this with music.
I guess there,
comics.
it's okay to still feel like you prefer, like I prefer a comedian to look goofy and silly. Not that I hate that someone is attractive or want them not to succeed, but when I'm watching something funny, it's funny when the visual's funny too.
Yeah.
Or I like
You
a
like
low. I'm
Gallagher?
really big on low status. Like I love watching low status characters. I like to play low status. I just think like it just makes me. Maybe it's like what we're saying the opposite. Like I want my characters to be loser idiots that I can feel better than. But
Right.
but there's
That's
something
interesting.
fun about that, and I just think it speaks to the human experience. Like we all feel that. Even the
Yeah.
attractive people
Of
feel
course.
at some
Of course.
point like the lowest man on the totem pole, or that
Yeah.
they don't have what other people have, and that's I
It-
think sometimes who needs the comedy and where comedy comes from is like underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just listening to you talk about it. It was like maybe it wasn't people that looked better. It's that they put the effort in and they put an outfit together that didn't make them look terrible.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact I didn't do that. And I could have done it.
Yeah.
I
At
also
any
know
moment.
that.
Every
I
day
also
I
know
woke
that.
up and it could have been the day I put on a good outfit and I didn't.
Yeah.
And so it was me. This was me railing against my own decisions.
Well, the first time I met you, Derek, I was like, you used to do that bit where you were like, yeah, like I can't just walk down the street with blood on my face. And what you were wearing, I was like, no, you can't. And you shouldn't ever. Don't ever do that because you are terrifying as is. Like you used to wear that red hat or the red, I don't know what are they called? It's like covers the
MAGA?
ears. Yes, that's right. You used to wear
it was like a hunting cap with ear flaps.
Yes, used to wear a hunting cap with hobo gloves. Right, with hobo gloves, which or mittens
and like a can of soup or something.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
well,
basically
that came with it, I'm sure. But like, and then this giant brown coat, and I remember seeing you the first time, and I was like, okay, maybe he's from Wisconsin. I don't know what this guy's deal is. So no, but that's also part of your character. Like when I still did comedy. I mean, if I did comedy now, it would be totally different. But I mean, back then, I leaned into the nerd thing. So sometimes I think you get kind of stereotyped, or you have to lean into some part of the character that you've built, and like it wouldn't make sense if it wouldn't make sense if you came in with what's like a corn shirt on stage. I mean, maybe Ahmed, I don't know. Like, I don't see you like wearing a heavy metal T-shirt on stage. Not that that part isn't there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do think about what I wear on stage a lot, and sometimes it changes.
Do you?
And
you look good.
I sometimes I try to wear a lot of colors because a lot of times that stems from performing a lot of venues that maybe aren't the best, like not best lighting. And so I always thought, like, if I wear like a bright shirt, even if the lighting sucks and no one's like paying attention, I'm highlighted in the corner. Like, look at me,
so
the guy
funny.
in the big bright red shirt. Look over here.
Yeah. I wore a Wu-Tang Clan hoodie for a whole year, but not even kidding. Just people knew exactly who I was. It's like the Wu-Tang comic.
And then there's been times where I try to dress fancy. Like I'm like, like they're paying money, I should wear a nice shirt, And then there's other times where I'm like, no, I want to be just like a schlubby thing that's like I just rolled out of bed. I don't know. I always think about that, where it's like, what do I want to see? And I would like to see just like an every man, every woman, just like on the stage, like hey, I have these thoughts, rather than like a guy in a nice tuxedo, like, hey, here we go, I don't know. But like, or like Dangerfield, he had the tie, but it's like loose and he's kind of disheveled.
Right.
I like that. I want to see someone who's kind of a mess.
The first time I ever hosted a week at a comedy club, I was the owner said, you got to dress up, you got to be professional, you got to wear a suit, and I was like, okay, I will do. I trusted her, and she's been doing this for a long time, so I put the suit on, and it goes so bad. For like the like Wednesday show sucked, Thursday show sucked, both shows on Friday sucked. Saturday, late show Friday, I undid my tie a little bit. It went a little bit better. Saturday, I was like, let's do the untie. And then Saturday night, shirt untucked on one side, jacket, I wrinkled it up, and then I did great. Like, as I got less and less appealing, everybody's like, oh, no, I believe this. This material, you got to match what you're saying, I think, in some way.
It's going back to you being you. You're being like this. I'm not this someone in a monkey suit. I'm just like a disheveled real person.
Right. Yeah. All my jokes were written when I looked bad.
Yeah.
So you dress me up, it's not going to match. What are you talking about? You look fine.
So you became the stripper for laughs, basically. Yeah. Just every day, you just showed a little bit of skin.
Yeah.
You didn't like that joke? What about this joke?
Then, you like that? Well, how about
mess
now?
Up my hair? How about that?
Yeah. Wait, okay. So who have you been listening to lately? And who have you enjoyed?
I just watched Shang Wang's special, which I thought was perfect. It was so good. And kind of along the lines of like the comedy that I'm trying to, he talks about a lot of like just little things in life and kind of blows them up and makes them more important. And I just felt like I love Shang, and I think that was like one of his best specials. Just felt like he was like in the zone.
I haven't seen it.
It's rare for
it's rare for a comic to.
It feels like This American Life for comedy. It's like zoning in on this one thing.
Yeah, he hits these like little tiny, like there's this one bit like I won't do it justice, but it's just about like he's in the shower and those like the soap pump. He just kind of talks about how it only works like halfway through, and then after a while you have to like unscrew it and start like taking the soap and like rubbing it on yourself and Shang's kind of like he's doing like this like dance, and I don't know, he just seemed like he was kind of like freer than normal and like really just like vibing on his like his own like style. It was cool.
That's awesome.
It's and Nate Bargatze too. I've been watching Nate Bargatze. The last two specials were really good.
I think he's about to put out a. Yeah. It's. I think he's about to put out a new one, or if he hasn't, he's definitely working on an hour. Shang. I've never heard of Shang. That's crazy. I don't.
Oh man, you love Shang, yeah.
Yeah, comics don't slip by me like that usually, but
my friend told me about that one, but he couldn't remember Shang's first name. And he was like, it's Wang, and I was like,
it's on Netflix, and Ali Wong directed it.
Okay,
they're like good friends.
Interesting.
I think she kind of, I don't know. I'm interested to know what the process was, but like it was in a big theater, and Shang used to have like short hair, and through the pandemic, it kind of became long, and I think it like added to his like his persona, like it just gave him this like calming like kind of hippie vibe, and it kind of makes more sense with his material. And it was funny, I told him that I said something like, oh man, I really like your hair, and he said something like jokingly like, yeah, I think before I was trying to go for as boring as possible. He just had like short haircut, like shaved, and now he's got a little bit of facial hair and like long, but it just kind of has this like flow to it that's like really calming.
I love it.
Yeah, very very zen-like. It's cool.
I love it.
Shang Wang, sweet and juicy.
Check his special. Yeah, sweet and juicy.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't. Derek, have you watched anything good recently? Any good specials? No. You're like, they're all terrible. Yeah.
I've been watching terrible things.
Well, you're always watching.
I want to feel better about myself.
No, but you're always doing. All right, let's settle down, shall we? Okay. You're always though watching. I feel like so. Okay, you don't know Derek Ahmed, but I'll just get like a picture from him, and it'll just say like Fabio horse, and it's just a horse that kind of looks like Fabio. Like that's the kind of stuff that like but that's what I love about him is just he's always on the look for just something something
Oh, just
funny.
random things. Okay, I thought
Yeah.
we were talking about comedy specific things.
No. Yeah, you just
I,
no. We were talking. I mean, you could share the funny things that
right.
you've seen, but like, I feel like your focus is not necessarily always on watching specials, but more so just you're always creating humor. You're always looking for the bit, even if it's like, hey, here's this weird subreddit I found. It's tortured and hurt my life, and now I want to give it to you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you, Derek. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Here's
gonna be a
picture.
long night.
You want to watch a video of a fish trying to eat an eel that's way bigger than him?
Yes,
It's
I
really
do
upsetting for both of them at the end. By the way, none of them were harmed in the filming of that video.
Really? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know. The fish almost gets it down, and it's like watching somebody.
There was a
there's
while
trying
someone on one of my friends on my Instagram like posted like a joke about watching like bugs fight, but then I messaged him and then he like sent me the link and I just spent like a whole day like watching these like crazy bug fights and
Oh, man.
it
Thank
was
you.
intense.
Thank
But,
you.
yeah. And there's like this one bug that you're like that bug. You start like realizing that that's the best bug for fighting. That bug, like I wish I could remember what kind of bug. It's almost like a giant centipede, but like it's just indestructible and like
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Oh
about.
man,
crazy.
I
Yeah.
have heard about when I was in college. I had a biology teacher, and he said that they used to do that. They used to, while they were out, they would catch different species, and then they would make them fight. And their favorite.
Wait, a biologist said this to you?
Yeah. He's like, you're out there a long time. You're out just in the field, and it gets very boring. He said,
so make animals fight. Yeah, no, you're right.
He loved catching shrews, and then it was what can beat a shrew, because a shrew, its metabolism is so high, anything it sees, it has to eat it, or it'll die. So it has no fear. It's venomous.
Yeah.
It's like one of the only
shrews are venomous.
Venom. Yeah.
I was just watching like a honey badger can like fight a lion.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because they have this like leathery skin that like it's like it doesn't hurt when it gets bit, and it's just not afraid, so it just doesn't back down. So they're just like big lions like trying to mess with it, and it's just like it's just won't give up, and it's not afraid. So like the lion eventually is like, all right, dude.
So wait, venomous. Sorry, I just was venomous shrews. What is he making them fight exactly? I want to.
Sounds like my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Hi-yo. Yeah.
Centipedes, or it would be any kind of spider, anything that was bigger than him, because it will just run at it immediately and begin trying to bite it and kill it. And
crazy.
Also I found out that sometimes people do horse fighting. And it's the most upsetting thing, but it is the most metal looking thing of all time, because horses,
do they like kicking? Are they like kicking like this?
They kick, bite, and like they swing their heads. Elephant or giraffes fighting, they just use their head.
Yeah, but that's just ridiculous. They look terrible.
Like they're head banging most of the time. They're just
just giraffe mosh pit.
Yeah, it is. Giraffe fighting is pretty funny, but then they also have to take breaks because they do get dizzy. So they swing hard like 4 seconds, and then they both kind of stand there.
They're like time out. Yeah, that was crazy. Why did we do that?
That's so funny. Yeah, I haven't. I tried watching Dion Cole's special, and it was good. It was good. I don't know. Someone told me it was going to be like this sort of grand, fantastic thing, and there's great stuff in it. But maybe I'm just so out of the loop now. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah,
there are some.
It's hard sometimes to enjoy a comedy special, like we were kind of talking about earlier. Like you've seen so much, so it's like you're hoping for this, because some of my best laughs have been watching like old specials, and kind of hoping for that. I think you're like, oh, I just want to like sit down and be crying, laughing. But it's hard to get there sometimes.
It's so rare for me. Like I can't. What's the last time someone made me? Derek, you make me laugh. Derek makes me laugh all the time. Just interacting with him. But like, what's the last special that like most recent special that like made me? I liked Ali Wong's first special.
Yeah,
That
hers
was
was great.
the first one is
That first one's really great.
incredible. It is incredible. Like my jaw dropped. Uh yeah, who else? But that was years ago. I can't think of one.
She had 2 cents, right?
Yeah, she had 2 cents. I like the second one. Didn't like the third one. Sorry, Ali. You don't watch this, but that's fine. Yeah, so it's fine. I can say that. But I can't think of anyone that's like really kind of knocked me out of the park recently. Greer Barnes. Actually, you know what? Greer Barnes. I've been listening to a lot of him. He's very. I mean, I like that energy when he gets up on stage and he's just like, hooray. Whoa. Hooray, yippee, woohoo. Like, and it's like, and he still destroys. It's like I just love that. I don't know what it is. The joke he has where he's like, oh, if I was a white woman, I just rob black dudes all day. I'm like, that's hysterical. I would do that too. So
you would just rob. Wait, what? Okay, I'm sorry.
He said if I was a white woman, I would just rob black dudes all day, and that's hilarious to me. Like, I would definitely do the same thing.
That's what's funny too. I feel like now with comedy, like, you know, like our readers being like desensitized, sometimes it just takes like one right little sentence to get you, right? You're just like,
yeah,
I need to laugh again. And finally, someone just puts the right little like, boop, and you're like, yeah, that's good.
Right.
You got me.
Michael Che's good at that too. Yeah, he's like, yeah, but white woman. I mean, there's certain black comics that are like, I mean, Che has that bit where he's like, yeah, if a white woman just takes your hat, you just lost your hat. And I just thought that was really funny to me. But for the most part, I don't know, comedy's tough these days. What do you think about the state of comedy? Like, people are super political and super, like, I've asked Derek this question before, but like, what are your thoughts on, you know, the whole idea of cancel culture, or, you know, comics sort of losing positions?
I mean, I'm not super into canceling people. I guess my whole life I've been like, you know, I think that, you know, if people do something bad, there should be like consequences and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I like, you know, casting people out for certain things, or, you know, saying something wrong, or so yeah, I think that we could definitely do that too much. You know, if someone does something, you know, to harm someone, there should be like
that's different
repercussions. But sometimes I don't think it should just be like everyone as a group decides like, okay, this person's like, you know, not allowed to be talked about anymore or whatever. So yeah, I think we definitely, I don't like that. And yeah, it just kind of feels like people, I don't know if there's like a lack of trust now between groups. So everyone's kind of in their corners, and if you seem like you're not in the right corner, then you're in the bad corner. And I think we could give each other more grace, or even just allow people to be wrong or be annoying, or just go, hi, that guy sucks.
You know? Yeah. I had this conversation with a buddy of mine, one of the guys who helps with this podcast, Joel. He was, what did I say? I take the Dave Chappelle stance where it's like, yeah, like, there are comics I see
trans people.
No,
sorry.
Hate
you set that up.
I didn't do anything, Derek. I feel like you took advantage of me. And no, but it also like what does he say? He says this at the Mark Twain Prize, his speech, where he's like, oh yeah, I hear people who say racist things on stage, and they actually mean it. And sometimes I even appreciate the artistry of their racism. Because it's just so funny. But even though backstage I'll be watching, you know, that comic say those things and be like, that guy means that. He definitely means it. Yeah. But he's still, you know, it's like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, people have bad thoughts and people have bad ideas and are wrong about stuff. And I don't know, it's kind of hard. I think it's
hard to make bits.
What the answer is. Yeah, but people have to be able to make mistakes and be wrong, and you know, sometimes people just have bad opinions, but it's still their opinion. Right.
I wish. Go on. Sorry,
I have
Dave.
one story about this. Okay, so this was, like
This ought to be good.
Dirty, like kind of a not a great club, but they had booked out a show, and it was like a whole week, and the middle had a big long joke about the N-word. He's black, and he was doing this, and he says it a lot during this bit, and he's talking about it for a long time. And then the headliner was white, and he was friends with them. And he would go on and he would say, "Hey, give it up for so-and-so. What a great," and then he would say the N-word. And then like it would usually get a big laugh because he's just done 10 minutes on it. And then it was like Saturday night. He realized headliner's not in the room, and he just cuts that closer out. And so the headliner walks on stage and just opens up and he says it, not knowing that there was no setup for it at all. And everybody's like, what? And he, for 45 minutes, is like, what is going on right now? The middle thought it was very funny.
That is, you have to tell me who that was. That is rough. Yeah, I don't know.
At the same time, I think comedies will survive and it'll be fine, and it's built.
I think we're getting back.
Yeah,
I think we're already coming back.
Yeah, I think the only answer is comedy. I think I think kind of where we are is maybe there's lots of people don't feel like they have any power or say in the world, and I think that this is like a way to have some kind of power, canceling or standing up together and go, oh, this is the bad person or that. But like the real bad people are like people in power who are doing the bad things, and not necessarily the comedians that are talking about some of the bad stuff or whatever it is. So I think sometimes it's this misdirected, like, oh, we can't do anything about these people up here.
Yeah.
So let's like focus on maybe the people who we think have power up here, who are, celebrities and have platforms, but still aren't actually holding any of the levies of power.
I think that feels very, when I was growing up, I was always, no matter what group I was in, I was always like the third biggest guy, which as I found out is the one that everybody is on they want to go after the third biggest guy, not the first or the second biggest, third biggest.
That's very funny.
Let's go. Right. Me. And I'm like,
yeah.
I think that's why I became a comedian. I'm like, hey, let's not fight.
Me.
Yeah. Let's not
fight. But wait. You're a giant. You're taller than me. I'm 6'2". You're 6'3", or 6'4".
I was always the third biggest guy. There was always two guys in my class or in my friend group bigger than me.
Wait! In this podcast, I'm the third biggest guy.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
leave me alone, guys.
You're in for a fight as soon as you get off. Just your kids are going to come in and be like, "We heard you were the third biggest guy, Dad, on the podcast. We got to get him. We can take him. Look at him." Nah, I that's. I'm glad that you said that. I think we're starting to get out of it, especially as comics find new avenues to put out their work. I hope I see you put out more of your work, Ahmed. I really like.
Yeah, I'm planning on. I've been recording a lot of stuff. I just got to like chop it up and.
I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that's the? I don't know. For me,
I think people are complaining about like a lot of people putting up clips, but I don't think it's so bad. I don't know. I think people are like, because it's new and maybe annoying to do or jealousy or whatever. I think people are like, oh, people are putting up too many clips or whatever. And it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
And I actually think it's kind of good for comics because it gives them something that they can tangibly work on, right? Like, here's a bit I did. Maybe it's not always the best bit, but whatever. You throw it out in the ether, and if it's not that good, then no one will watch it.
And it works.
I think it'd be great to be those moments that are just, that are really fun. That you're like, well, that's not going to go in the hour.
Yes.
Why don't we cut that out and we'll just keep that as like hey, remember when that happened?
Yeah. And it's like comedy. It's like it's what we do, right? We want to get up on stage and perform and do comedy, and now it's like giving people an incentive to focus on that rather than all the other extra stuff like the networking and the all this other. It's like go up, record yourself being funny, and if it's funny, people will like it, and if it's not, people won't watch it.
You'll also know whether it's good or like I posted. I haven't done comedy in years, but I posted up a clip of mine this year, and that was part of the reason what inspired me to start the podcast. But I posted a clip of mine, and it got 7,000 views within the first day. And I was like, and people were like, "Where's more of your stuff?" And I was like, "I don't do this actually anymore." I was just like, I just put up of it. But it was interesting because it made me realize actually this is a good way to test whether your material is actually salient or not.
I guess one downside would be is like maybe people are not being in the moment as much. Like they're not just like being at that show performing for that crowd. They're maybe thinking like, is this a clip? Is this a thing? Which like, you know, I don't think that makes it so bad that we shouldn't be doing it, but it maybe is a thing to think about where, because I even, you know, sometimes I'm recording, I'm like, oh, is this going to be good? And then if it's not going the way I want it, I'm like, now I'm thinking about like, oh, this is not a clip. And I'm not
but that's
just like in the room being with the people in the room.
You know, I think there's another thing that'd be good. I struggled with this for a while was, you know, if you're going to be recorded and on, you know, like in like a special, you kind of need to keep your body in a certain way. That is, you wouldn't normally, if like the crowd is real low, you would be looking down at them most of the time. Which is not a good clip when you're just talking down like this the whole time. And it's just like, hey, just be aware that the camera's there. Kind of like, you know, like look down like this. Don't, you know, being camera trained, you could be,
that's
it could
really
be a little
important.
way to camera train yourself. So.
I think I got a comic who who did make me laugh really, really hard. It's a New York, I call him kid, but we're probably the same age. Meki was a Moroccan kid. Meki,
really?
Yeah, he's really,
check him out.
I'll have to send Meki something.
Send him to me.
He made me laugh so hard. Meki Leaper. Yeah, he doesn't look Moroccan. He looks, he doesn't look Moroccan. He looks white, and he says that.
Never mind. I don't want to watch him.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, it's not worth it anymore, right? But he addresses it in a really funny way. He's like, yeah, people are always like, well, you're Moroccan, you could say the N-word, right? And he's like, does it look like I could get away with saying the N-word? Which is really funny.
No,
but
I'm looking at a picture of him right now. He cannot.
He cannot. Well, exactly.
He's got to show his passport. No, I'm okay.
And he does this bit. That's I think Meki's the one who's made me laugh the hardest the past, I don't know, year or 2 years. But he has this bit where he's talking about how he lost his girlfriend to star in the NCAA at his university, and he was like, "Yeah, it's hard to argue with that because she's correct. That is the correct answer to leave me, and to go for that guy." And it's just such a, I'm not doing it justice either, but it's just such a good bit. It's the right mix of like silly, which I like in you, Ahmed, but thoughtful, and yeah, it's just got all these things. And I don't laugh that hard anymore, but I laughed at Meki. Meki's funny, man. Shout out to Meki. Awesome. I'd love to get him on the show. And when he opens, I don't know if you guys are hip hop fans, but he opens with he's like, yeah, I look like Logic, which is like, if you like hip hop, that's the worst rapper to look like, because every other hip hop or every other rapper is like, drugs and money and blah blah blah, and Logic's like, if you're depressed, there's people you can call and you can talk to. And I was like, that's a
great.
Perfect.
Yeah, fit. Wow, he really does kind of look like him.
He looks just like him.
him. I mean, the same kind of glasses, the same hoodie,
everything,
the same kind of haircut almost.
It's terrible, bro. He looks, So
I would
anyways,
have to know that one of them has a cowlick, and then I could tell them apart.
I hope he's doing well. I'd love to get him on the show because he seems. He's very funny. He's young, and I could probably beat him in a fight. which makes him very approachable. I'm curious, Ahmed, what are you working on? What do you want people to know? When is your next show, or when are your next shows?
Next show, I'm going to be in the Comedy Store on Saturday, but I don't know when are you putting this out?
Probably Monday or Tuesday or Thursday, something like that.
Okay. You can check my Instagram out for shows I'll post. Yeah, I'm just performing around LA a lot, and
What's your
putting
handle?
out more. Ahmed Bharoocha, or at Ahmed Bharoocha, I think, on all the socials, and putting out more sketches with my sketch group Dead Kevin. We're going to start putting out a podcast too, so stay tuned on YouTube is where we put most of our stuff out. It's Dead Kevin Sketch on YouTube. Nice. And that's mostly what I'm going to do.
Use the word Kevin. It's perfect. It's my favorite. It's my favorite word to say, and in all the different ways you can say frustration. Kevin.
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 Yeah.
It's kind of funny because it was supposed to be random, but Ryan, who's in the sketch group, his dad's name is Kevin, and I guess we just didn't realize that. Like I didn't know that till like a year into being with them. He's like, my dad's name is Kevin. I'm like, dad's name is Kevin?
Wait, does he watch the sketches?
Yeah. And I have an uncle named Kevin, and my uncle, like, really, no matter what I tell him, he thinks that I named the group after him. He's like, no, we were just kind of being random.
That's really funny.
He's like, it's me.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely about you. That's how I would have answered. It's like, you got me. Yeah, no, I thanks for joining us, Ahmed.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, it's great catching up with you. I always feel calmer after talking to you, or even listening just to your comedy. And it's you still got it, man. You still have that soothing effect. And I love that. So wish you nothing but success, man. Looking forward to seeing more from you. Saw the pictures of you and your wife's anniversary photos. They're beautiful. Go check them out at Ahmed at Ahmed Baroocha, AhmedBharoocha for our Spotify listeners.
Thank you.
And thanks for hanging out with us, guys. After the jump. See you next time.